Hey, I thought I'd just take a few minutes and to sort of discuss my VHS tape collection as of this year in 2024. For me, when it comes to collecting VHS tapes, a lot of people can look at these as worthless, useless, and sort of obsolete. I know it was confusing for me, at least, when I was first collecting, and a lot of these tapes really started to skyrocket in price, and they still are to this day. VHS tape collecting has really taken off in the last few years. For me, the way that I collect tapes, it's not out of like, oh, it's becoming a rare item or it's becoming a popular item to collect. I started my collection a little over 7 to 5 years ago, I want to say, right before COVID. I attended a Comic-Con, and there this guy had like the original classic Star Wars triple set. They were all really nice. I don't even think they were opened at the time, or maybe they were just really nice, clean copy, and he was like, I'll let you have them for $4. I was like, yeah, sure, and that kind of started the snowball effect, so to speak. So I thought I'd just take a minute to kind of explain why I collect tapes. It's because it's the form of media that I grew up with. Yes, did I grow up in the early 2000s? Yeah, but I sort of grew up like a 90s kid almost. I played Twisted Metal 2 on my PlayStation 1 as a kid. I didn't have another console until a little bit in between when the Wii was in its heyday. That's when I started to get into video games more, but I was playing on my PS1, and my family had kind of a miniature Blockbuster in our house. We really didn't have that many DVDs per se. I want to say we didn't fully convert to DVD and Blu-ray until about 2010, 2011, so really late in the game. So far, in fact, that I would say that even DVD and Blu-ray, I have no real nostalgia or any real want to really collect them. I do have a few here, but they're mostly like the collector's editions. So for instance, I have the Steelbook edition of the Transformers movie on Blu-ray, all the collector's edition of the Voltron DVD collection sets, as well as anything like the Blu-ray 4K collector's edition of -1, or Steam Boy. I think that's still only available on DVD. Just different things like that I will collect. I'm not necessarily a massive physical movie collector now, especially with streaming. I don't know. I'm kind of debating still to this day. But when it comes to VHS, I think it's kind of this really cool thing to collect for certain individuals. It's a very rare thing that not a lot of people can collect because A, you need a working VCR, which can be almost impossible to find nowadays, or in such good conditions. I got really lucky with this one where a couple that I was staying with one time, they had one of these, and I just sort of asked, like, hey, are you still using it? It was kind of tucked in the corner, and they were like, nah, go for it. So that one's in pretty working condition. It's really good. And then you need actually a compatible TV, which is a CRT. I have a few CRTs, but this one is by far my favorite, the JVC iArt CRT. And, it does the job. And I think that's why VHS tapes are so cool, because it's kind of this little, little sector of collecting that not a lot of people go for. Yes, has it become more popular over time? Sure. But it's still in a perfect collecting state, as in terms of it's not too expensive and it's not too hard to find some of these tapes. If you want to go for certain tapes, by all means, you're going to find the tapes that you want. And if you want to play the waiting game, you're going to find them for very cheap, $5 and under. I have not even paid, I don't think, more than $1 or $2 for any of these tapes, even some of my sealed ones like the Godzilla or Tremors. If you play the waiting game, you're going to get what you want for very cheap on VHS. That's very different when it comes to video games, and I have, when it comes to my video game collection, most of what I want. Basically, what I'm going for now is basically more of the newer games. Some of the older games, yes, I do have on a list, but right now there's really no need to go back and start collecting video games all over again. It's more so if I see something that I'm like, hey, that looks fun to play, I don't think I got that, I'll go for it. That's how I kind of view collecting video games now. There's not really a list that I have of games, more so just the newer stuff I'm trying to go for now. So I guess with that being said, let's get into this. Most of these tapes I actually did receive for free from a friend of mine that works at a game store. He works at a vintage stock, and he called me up. He's like, dude, this guy just dropped off like 100 tapes. If you want them, they're yours for free. That way I don't have to do my job, basically, and, type them all into the computer, because, hardly anyone was purchasing these, so he was like, go for it. And what was super cool about them is that this guy actually took really good care of his tapes. I don't know if he was a collector. This is on the outside, not the inside. But yeah, he had like protective sleeves for almost every single one of them. So I took the majority of the tapes, and the tapes that I didn't want or that were just not really worth selling or giving rid of, I just basically threw them away, kept the protectors, so now almost every single tape of mine has a really nice protective sleeve on it. So I'm pretty proud of that. But yeah, I guess let's get started. So let's start from the top. So these are my sealed VHS tapes that I'm really trying to keep nice. I have this sealed 5-pack of Godzilla movies. This includes the original King of the Monsters with Raymond Burr, Godzilla vs. Mothra, Godzilla Monster Zero, and then Godzilla's Revenge and Terror of Mechagodzilla. This is the one Godzilla movie I have the most nostalgia for, is Godzilla's Revenge. That's the one in the franchise that not a lot of people like, and people mostly consider that the worst, but I really enjoy it, and just actually having something sealed like this is insane to me. I think I paid maybe $3 for it in a thrift store, and yeah, it's still pretty cool to me. Obviously, I have a copy of Godzilla's Revenge sealed. I think this was next to it, obviously, on the shelf, and I think maybe it was $1.50. Very cheap, like I said, if you're willing to play the long game. But yeah, Godzilla's Revenge, it's the one I have the most nostalgia for out of any Godzilla movie. I think Godzilla vs. Biollante is my second one that I have the most nostalgia for and that I watch the most, but definitely Godzilla's Revenge, just the way that the music starts, the way that the story plays out, that's the one that I watched a lot as a kid. Then we have Godzilla and Mothra Battle for Earth sealed. This one I don't have as much nostalgia for, but this was during the time when these are more rare, the Heisei movies on VHS, because you had to special order them, I believe, the Heisei era movies, compared to something like the Showa movies right here, because these were available in double packs, where Godzilla and Mothra the Battle for Earth was available with Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. Same thing for Space Godzilla and Destroyer. They were in this double pack DVD. So to see it kind of separately like this is really cool. And then, of course, I have a copy of the TriStar's Roland Emmerich's Godzilla. I'm going to have a video here soon talking about this, not only a Zetheroni episode, but also a discussion with one of my friends. And it's not that bad of a movie, per se. It is a bad Godzilla movie, but as in terms of a movie, it's not that bad. I would say if it was retitled to, say, like Lizard in New York or Giant Monster, some generic other title than Godzilla, I think it would have been received a lot better and would have had a lot more nostalgia off of it. Nowadays, it's mostly just nostalgia for Godzilla fans, as it being one of the first movies that a lot of kids have watched, or one of the movies that maybe got people into the series, which is not a bad thing. The reason I have a lot of nostalgia for this copy is because, A, I think it's cool that this is a widescreen edition. Sony was kind of pioneering these with VHS tapes, and so, it's got a very unique art style compared to most of the copies of this, because most of the copies of the Roland Emmerich's Godzilla have the eyeball enlarged, and then if you put your finger on his eyelid, it's got a like texture to it, like you're touching his eyeball. I have a lot of nostalgia for it because growing up, I would have to go to my grandma's house for weeks on end at times, and that was always fun, but there was no Godzilla movies, so either I had to bring my own, or this was the only Godzilla movie she had, so I would rewatch this multiple times up there, and I've come to love it. Is it great? No. But is it that bad? As in terms of a Godzilla movie, yes. As in terms of a giant monster flick, no. So, yeah, I mean, those are my sealed Godzilla tapes. Those are the ones that I really am proud of for finding. I have a few more Godzilla tapes down here that we'll talk about. But for now, let's move on to this shelf. So I guess we can start from over here. Top Gun. Obviously, if you're a VHS collector, a lot of people have this in their collection. I'm not actually the biggest fan of the first Top Gun movie. It's great. I mean, yeah, I'll still pop it in from time to time and watch it, but it's a movie that I never fully watched until I was about a teenager in freshman year of high school. We had the tape growing up, but I never really fully watched it, and so I don't know, I just don't have that much nostalgia for it. Top Gun Maverick, however, its sequel, I love infinitely better. It's one of those few sequels that really outclassed the first movie in every single way. Still a great movie, great effects, and it's one of Tom Cruise's best movies that he's been in. But personally, I just don't have that much nostalgia for it. This is one of those that I got in that big 100 tape collection. Up next is Legend. I've gone on to talk about this movie a little bit. This one is in a little bit of a poor condition up top, but it's still really nice in the front, the picture. This is why collecting VHS to me is really, really cool, because you get a lot of unique artwork. Or like the first edition posters for the cover art. Nowadays, when Legend is re-released, it's kind of this, with the actors' photographs and stuff. It's really not that interesting of a poster compared to this. You got darkness there in the background. He's got his powers there. I mean, overall, just really, really cool. Legend is one of those movies that this is the original version. It's got two cuts of the movie. Ridley Scott, he recut it later down the line to what he wanted, and that is the version that is the best. This is the studio version, which isn't terrible, but I mean, I would rather watch the 3-hour cut that Ridley Scott did. Big Trouble in Little China is one of my favorite movies of all time. It has outclassed a lot of really good movies, and it's still to this day one of those movies where I'm like, I don't think it's that great. And then I pop it in and I end up having a great time throughout the entire movie. Big Trouble in Little China, if you don't know, it's basically just a nobody that gets caught in this situation where there's wizards, there's underground sorcery, there's like a monster in it halfway through the movie that appears, and there's old men, ancient Chinese magic, just it gets insane and off the wall. It is by far John Carpenter's best movie, in my opinion, that he has done. He's done a lot of great movies, but Big Trouble in Little China is always the one that I can come back to over and over and over again, and I still have a great time. So Galaxy Quest. So this one is another one I don't have a lot of nostalgia for compared to something like Big Trouble in Little China, but it's still a fun movie. I believe I've only watched this like 2 times in my life, but by far one of the funniest movies I've seen in a long time. This one I didn't fully watch until I was a teenager as well. I love Tim Allen and Sigourney Weaver in it. I think they're hilarious, and being a parody of Star Wars and Star Trek, growing up loving the original series, it does everything right in every single way. And I haven't played this one on VHS yet, so I'm not sure, but I know a lot of the CGI hasn't held up greatly over time on Galaxy Quest, so maybe having the VHS copy and going back and watching it, some of those effects will be blurred, so to speak, with the quality of the tape, so we'll have to see. I'd like to test that. All right, Tremors 2 and Tremors. So these are, the Tremors series is very, very special to me. I put it up there with Speed Racer as in terms of me really coming to have a love of movies and understanding how they work, so to speak. So Tremors to me is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's easily in my top 20 movies of all time, period. There's no debate or question. When it comes to the sequels, Tremors 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, I believe there's an 8th one, but they're all great in my opinion. I believe the last one was pretty bad because they killed off the main guy, Burt Gummer. But it's by far one of the most creative movies that came out of the 80s, in my opinion. Tremors is just fantastic. Everything about it, it's a perfect movie. It's absolutely perfect. Tremors 2, I would even hold in high regard too. Not as perfectly, but it's easily a 9 out of 10 for me. The way that the worms change and evolve over the course of the movie. I'd have to say maybe the third movie isn't the best, but the fourth movie where they go back in time and it's all about Burt Gummer's ancestors, that one's really great as well. I hope I can find the other two on VHS because they did release the third and the fourth movie on VHS, and I hope I can find them. Tremors 2 is not sealed. It's just got that protective case on it, but Tremors 1 is. And that is one of my most impressive and proud finds that I've ever come across in a thrift store.
Up next, we have Men in Black, which is one of my favorite Tommy Lee Jones movies, honestly. It's so funny. It's got great effects still to this day. And honestly, it's just one of those movies that I really think is perfect overall. And it's one that I grew up with on VHS, so I had to have it. So Batman, you know, Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson. What's more that needs to be said? That iconic logo there on the front. You don't even need the words Batman. It's iconic enough. Honestly, this is my favorite Batman movie. I have a really soft spot, though, for Batman Returns and the new The Batman in 2022. And I just think that this and The Batman are the best Batman movies. I wasn't really a big fan of the Christopher Nolan trilogy. I just thought it was a little too serious for my taste, and I don't know, I just didn't really enjoy him that much. Honestly, I love The Dark Knight, really do, but those other two movies, I think I could skip and not really care about. The Dark Knight, it's perfect, but if I'm grading the trilogy overall, I much prefer the original Batman movie, or this Batman movie, or The Batman. Only the Lonely. One of the most underrated John Candy movies, in my opinion. It's not really funny. It's more of a serious rom-com, if there's a better word for it. I'm not sure. But it's got some funny moments, but it's honestly like kind of a depressing movie. There's lots of death scenes. There's lots of just interesting choices for a rom-com starring John Candy. It's mostly about a lonely guy that's trying to get a date, and when he's older, he still lives with his mom. It's kind of a funny movie, but at the same time, it's not. I don't really know how to describe it that much, really, but it's one of my favorite John Candy movies, and it's really underrated, in my opinion. Final Fantasy, The Spirits Within, is one of the... I don't know really how to say. It's one of the most interesting movies because it was during that time when we were starting to get more into like realistic CGI animation, and it's actually really good animation, but nowadays it's pretty dated. The story is not really good in my opinion. It's cool to have a VHS copy of it, but I actually would really like to go back and rewatch it again and try to pick it apart a little more because it's been a while. And I would also like to see the Final Fantasy VII Advent Children. I haven't seen that yet, and I would really like to see that, though. Obviously, what collection isn't without the two Lord of the Rings movies? I know that there's Return of the King on 2 VHSs, and they actually have the extended editions on VHS. But for me, these were part of the free stack that I got, along with a lot of the other movies here. But honestly, if I had to choose which of mine are my favorite out of the trilogy, I would have to say it's The Two Towers. That is just overall beautifully done movie. The battle at the end is incredible still. It gets me just as excited. The music, the acting, everything. The Fellowship of the Ring is a close second. I never really liked Return of the King that much. It's a great end to the trilogy, but it's not one that I necessarily go back to by itself. If I had to like have a day where it's like, okay, I'll watch one of the Lord of the Rings, it's most likely I'm going to watch Fellowship or The Two Towers. But overall, it's Lord of the Rings. What else needs to be said? Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Obviously, what collection isn't complete without it? It's one of the best comedies of all time, and While it's not one of my personal favorites, it is one that I've rewatched over and over again annually. I know they're doing kind of a spin-off sequel. It's about the two guys that take the car and they go off on their adventure. So who knows? That could be good. That could be bad. We'll have to see. But it's Ferris Bueller. Very good movie. Jurassic Park. It's Jurassic Park. It's one of Steven Spielberg's best directed movies. Honestly, it's better than the book. Maybe in the future, it'd be really cool to see a more book accurate depiction, because if you've read the book, you know that it's not really close to the source material. It's kind of like Jaws, where they really drifted away from the source material for the better. Now, this and Jaws are way better than the books, in my opinion. But The Lost World is more like the book than the first Jurassic Park is to the book. So it's kind of interesting, but it's really good. It's really cool to have a copy of this, and it's a really nice copy too. There's really no nicks or dings. Just really nice. Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. This one, the slipcover has got some of those stickers on it, so that's not a copy of it. But this is one of the best musicals, in my opinion. I'm not really a big fan of the music portions. I'm more so a fan of the story. I think it's one of the best stories presented in a musical, but I don't really like the musical portions compared to other musicals. But it's Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. It's iconic. It's one of the best, I guess, movies out of MGM's catalog. I'm not really sure how you would say that, but it's one of my personal favorites. It's one that me and my friends quote a lot, and by the time that this video comes out, I believe that the Seven Brides for Seven Brothers Zeth episode will be out, so you'll know more of my opinion there. But honestly, it's just a great movie. It's really funny. Definitely check it out if you haven't. I really recommend it. We come to some of these tapes in the back I don't really care about. Honestly, I'm gonna be getting rid of some of these tapes, like some of the Chuck Norris tapes, just some of these tapes that I really don't care about necessarily. These were more in the free stack, but now that my collection has expanded more and more, this is kind of just like my filler catalog, and I'm just going to be getting rid of some of these because my collection, I want to have tapes that meant something to me when I was a kid or that I grew up watching. So a lot of the times it's going to be the Godzilla tapes. It's going to be something like Tremors or Top Gun or Galaxy Quest, movies that I grew up watching, or movies that I really appreciate still to this day that I want multiple physical copies of. So I think more of these I'm going to be getting rid of in the next couple days, but I still want to showcase them. Like you have here, I'm never getting rid of this, Kazam with Shaq. I still have yet to watch this, but this is one of the most infamous internet movies where it keeps getting mistaken for Sinbad. It's one of those eerie movies that a lot of people misremember, but I don't know, it's Shaq as a genie, so I'm really interested to see where it goes, but I gotta watch it. I think it might be a good time. Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl, it's almost perfect in my opinion. Compared to the second and the third movie, those ones are still really good, but The Curse of the Black Pearl was just, like, it was perfect. It was the action, the ending, how still to this day I'm in awe of the fight with Captain Barbossa and Johnny Depp's Jack Sparrow, when they're turning into skeletons and then they're not, in the moonlight, and they're sword fighting with one another. That scene is just unbelievably exciting, and the music, you know, everything about this was a perfectly directed movie. It was written amazingly. I still love it to this day. Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise. Not one of my favorite movies of all time, but out of the Mission Impossible series, it's one of the best still to this day. It's one of the best shot movies to this day. Honestly, like, I think that this has held up stupendously with its shots. There's a really great video out there on the internet. I can't remember it, but it goes over how the first Mission Impossible still looks like a movie that was shot in 2024. You know, it goes over that in intense detail and how it really did it well. But honestly, if I had to go through the Mission Impossible movies, I would have to say that this is my third favorite out of all of them. I love the new Dead Reckoning Part 1. The Final Reckoning, that trailer just popped up, and I think that looks superb. I'm going to go to an IMAX theater for that. Hopefully they have like a thing where you could watch like Dead Reckoning Part 1 and then like you could see the Final Reckoning back to back. That would be pretty cool. But if I had to rank the Mission Impossible series, it would be more like Dead Reckoning Part 1, then Fallout, then the first Mission Impossible, and then I would have to go from there. But this is definitely a good one to have on VHS. It's a classic movie, and it's a Tom Cruise movie. Romancing the Stone is a very funny and a very good movie. Honestly, it's really good. I know they had a sequel to this, but I consider that to be one of the worst sequels ever made. I forget the name of it. Maybe it's like Jewel of the Nile or something like that. I'm not quite remembering correctly, but it's very funny. It's a Robert Zemeckis film, you know, back when he was actually a really good director. This was one of his first movies that he did, and honestly, it's almost really, I don't want to say perfect, but it's super funny. The action's really good. Danny DeVito, Michael Douglas, you know, just really good star-studded cast there, and I mean, I highly recommend it if you haven't. Just don't watch the sequel. Some of these movies I just have for the sake of the collection, but No Retreat, No Surrender, I haven't watched it yet, but it's kind of like, I have no idea. It's like a kickboxing movie, but it honestly looked kind of funny. I think I'm going to keep this one with Shaq's Kazam and see where it takes me, honestly. I don't know what to make of this. I have a few Chuck Norris tapes right here. Firewalker, Breaker Breaker, and the Delta Force. I think I'm going to be getting rid of these just because I don't really have any real nostalgia for Chuck Norris movies. I'm obviously, like, the meme was funny in the early 2000s, but I don't know. I never really was a big Chuck Norris fan. His movies are good, but I don't know. Just to not really, I don't really need these. Same thing for Joe Pesci and Donnie Glover's Gone Fishing. Never seen it. I don't really know if I intend to or not, but I don't know. Could be funny. But this is one more that I just don't really need. Five Goes West, An American Tale. Another one that I received for free. I don't really need this one either, but I do have a soft spot for the first two American Tales. This one and the first one, because this one's the sequel. But the animation on both of these are really good. Don Bluth's animation. Never was really the biggest Don Bluth fan. I have a Don Bluth movie over here that I'm going to get to, but you know, it's An American Tale, Five Goes West. It's very good, but one that I don't really need in my VHS collection. Mazes and Monsters. This one is an okay Tom Hanks movie. It's kind of like a TV movie, I think. It's okay. It's not really great, and it's not really bad. It's just kind of like in the middle. It's one of Tom Hanks's lesser known movies back before he was really well known. It's okay, nothing really amazing. Unbreakable. This is a really cool one that I have because it's an exclusive bonus edition. I always think these are really cool for VHS tapes because, you know, sometimes they'll have like special previews or something at the end, like sometimes with Disney movies, you know, that you'll have like, stay tuned after the events of the picture and you'll be able to see the making of the movie. And, you know, this is kind of like one of those situations. But Unbreakable, I think it's one of M. Night Shyamalan's best movies, if not his very best. I just love the slow burn of it, and you don't really know if he's a superhero or if it's all in his head. It was just a fantastic movie. Can't really say a whole lot on it, but it's definitely in probably my top 100 favorite movies of all time. Next, we have The Little Rascals, which I know a lot of people have nostalgia for this version of The Little Rascals, and it's an okay interpretation of the original Our Gang shorts, but for me, I was never really in love with this movie because I always loved the classic Little Rascals and Our Gang shorts, even the silent era of Our Gang shorts. And when it comes to the Little Rascals, I was never a real big fan of when the gang got older and it was still Alfalfa and Spanky. Uh, I was never really the biggest fan. Now, the movie's cute, but I just never really cared for those interpretations of the characters. Um, I understand that like Alfalfa is the face of the Little Rascals. Same thing for Spanky. But if you go back and you watch a lot of those old shorts, the funnier ones are with Spanky when he was a baby. Those ones are absolutely hilarious. I don't know. I was just always more of a fan of those early 20s Little Rascal. Like you had Mickey, you had Joe, you had Chubby, Marianne, Farina, a lot of those characters. I never was really in love with as it went along and you had these Little Rascals. I don't know. It's okay. This one's a really cute movie. I think that it's fine, but it's definitely not one that I need in my collection. This was just one that I got for free. The Nutty Professor, not my favorite Eddie Murphy movie, but it's definitely really funny. I don't know, not much to really say on it. The effects are really good. The fat suit is really good looking on Eddie Murphy, but I don't know. It's a movie that I watch once in a while and I kind of forget about even exists really. I don't know. I just don't really have that much to say on it. National Lampoon's European Vacation. I have not seen any of the National Lampoon movies, believe it or not. And I'm going to start. This one is really cool just because of the cover art. I really love VHS art. You always get something really unique. I know for a fact that the DVD art does not look anything like this. But it's just, it's really, really cool looking. And you know what? I will watch European Vacation on VHS. I will keep it because of this art. It's just really, really cool. Lara Croft Tomb Raider I have never finished this movie because of how bad it is in my opinion. I don't know. I never really thought these two movies were good. This one or the I forget what it was, like Temple of the Sun or something like that. It's sequel, but this is another one I got for free, and I just don't really care for it. Maybe one day I'll sit down and be able to finish it, but I much prefer the reboot that came out in 2019, I want to say. I was one of the only people that saw that one in the theater, and I thought that one was okay for the most part. That was like the start of when video game movies were starting to actually become pretty good for the most part, even though they were like okay movies. It was still pretty decent for a video game movie. But this one I have actually never gotten through. I think Angelina Jolie just, I don't know. She is definitely not Lara Croft, in my opinion. I don't know. I don't know. Never really I'm a big classic Tomb Raider fan, but I just never was a fan of the movies, if that makes sense. I never could get past these two movies. Merlin. Now, we get to the section where I have clamshell VHSs now. And so this is going to be a bit, maybe a hot take, but I don't really care if it's a clamshell or if it's a paperback sleeve like the Chaplin over there. But this one is a hard case. So compared to a lot of other ones, this one's a more hard one. But this one I have actually never seen before, which is interesting because it's got Sam Neill. And I don't know, I'm a pretty big Sam Neill fan. And I think it's just a TV movie, but I think it got good reviews. I'm not quite sure on that. But I'll definitely check it out one of these days. But it's got some cool art there, and I don't know, I got it for free. It's a Hallmark movie, so it might be bad, but I don't know. So now we come to some of my favorites that I've got in my collection. Now, these are ones that I've actually went out and searched for and have purchased for like $1. But Monsters, Inc., I have so many great memories of watching this movie. Now, I actually do have a big bad collector's edition when 3D was a thing. And so I have one that's got 19 Blu-rays in it. I'll have to find that maybe. But I really like the tape for this because it's blue. And then on the inside, you have everyone kind of giving their signature. Really unique, but I had to have a tape of this because this is what I grew up with. This is my childhood VHS copy of Monsters, Inc. And I want to say that this is the last time that they showed the Put That Thing Back Where It Came From or So Help Me. Because at the end, I don't know if they have it on streaming. I don't think they do. But there's the joke, Put That Thing Back Where It Came From or So Help Me, that they're rehearsing a musical for the company. And at the end of the VHS tape, you can see that they actually do the musical. But later down the road, they took it out in streaming and stuff. So I don't know if this is the last time that you see it, but the quality is still pretty good on a VHS copy, and I just had to have it because blue tape, I mean, come on. So another one that I grew up with was Mulan. This is another one this is the copy that I grew up with, the Masterpiece Collection, as they say. And so Mulan is one of my favorite Disney movies. This is still a pretty good clamshell copy. Some parts are a little torn. That's a little yellowed up there, but not a bad copy of Mulan. Still works really great. It's Mulan, one of Disney's best animated movies, in my opinion. So not much to really say or give an input on, but I just had to have it for my VHS collection. Now we come to Gremlins, which I cannot wait to put my video out on it because Gremlins means so much to me. It was one of the first scary movies I remember watching as a kid, and it just means a lot to me. But another thing that will kind of tell you VHS pricing is that usually if you see a tape for about $6 to $10, you can find it for a cheaper price. So I went to a con, and there was some guys there selling VHS copies for pretty audacious prices. Gremlins was being sold for like $10, and it was because the guy, I was like, well, why not like, $3 or something like that? And he was like, well, it's a clamshell. And I'm like, I don't know, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Later down the road, I did find this copy at a Goodwill for $1, and it's Gremlins. I really like the clamshell, actually, sometimes for specific copies of movies, and Gremlins, I do not mind having the clamshell version. We come to Chaplin, which is a really underrated movie, in my opinion. It's long as heck, but it's really, really good. If you have the time to sit down and watch this was Robert Downey Jr.'s comeback movie before he did Iron Man, and it was meant to be his comeback movie, but then he slipped back, and then Iron Man was his comeback movie. But this is just a really well directed movie, in my opinion. It's got Robert Downey Jr. as Charlie Chaplin, and he just morphs into the role. This is besides Iron Man, this is his second best role that he's done. And it's really good. It's got a lot of great actors in it, and I don't know, I highly recommend, if you've got a couple hours, definitely check it out. We come to Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. This is an original VHS copy of it, because later down the road, they would always do like the trilogy packs of like Star Wars or Indiana Jones, and this is one that was sold, I want to say, separate from the others, because it doesn't have that yellow font or the yellow tape that would always be on the side. So this is an original Temple of Doom copy. Again, the artwork, whew, man, frame it, stick it in a museum where it belongs. Temple of Doom is not my favorite Indiana Jones movie, but it's definitely there. Like, I would say that all three of the movies in the trilogy are all right on top of one another, as in terms of quality and of terms of storytelling. Like, if I had to say what my favorite is, Last Crusade, just because of how funny it is and just the adventure and the music, the whimsy. I think that was when Steven Spielberg and George Lucas were at their peak, as in terms of like working off one another, and they knew immediately like what Indiana Jones was. Absolutely amazing. But I do like Temple of Doom because it was when they were like, Indiana Jones isn't just someone that hunts Nazis or fights Nazis. he's also like a treasure hunter kind of. And that's what I like about this one, is that he's more so an adventurer that kind of stumbles into trouble. And I wish they kind of continued that. They tried to with the Crystal Skull. Didn't really work out, and they went back to it in Dial of Destiny with him being a fighter of Nazis. And I just don't really think they should have gone that path. I think that what they should have done was kind of have it where it was like this, where he's a treasure hunter and an archaeologist, and you know, he gets into trouble, kind of like a Nathan Drake, where it's like every single movie's a different adventure with different villains and bad guys. I really wish they went down this route more. But if I had to choose the three out of the three, it'd be Last Crusade, then Raiders, then Temple of Doom. But it's not like there's a big gap between my love for those movies. You know, it's just kind of, you know, what order I prefer them in, I guess. I don't know. But Temple of Doom, it's really good. Okay, so this is the last Don Bluth movie I have, and this is one I've been dying to watch, but I've never actually seen it before, and I've heard it's actually like really good. It's got that early 2000s animation that Disney and a lot of other companies were doing, like Fox, and I want to say Paramount was doing too. Just this really good mix of CGI and hand-drawn animation, and I've heard this one is actually like Don Bluth's best movie, so I'm quite interested in checking it out. But Titan AE, definitely, I don't know. It might be good, it might be bad, who knows?
We come to my other collection of tapes, which is my Godzilla collection, which I've kept really separate from my other tapes for now. I'm shooting this a little bit later because I forgot to, but basically, if you want to see more information about my thoughts on Godzilla on VHS, I do have a separate video, which I will link. Please check that out. But for now, maybe in a month or so, we can come back and we can check out more tapes that I've gotten recently over time. Just the ways that the collection has expanded in certain ways. I'm sure I'll have more Godzilla tapes and more other tapes to show off. But for now, this is my collection in 2024.
All right, so I know I said I would be back in a year, but my collection has expanded over the last week since I last shot that one part of the video like over a month ago. But went to some more stores here recently with some friends, and I picked up Grumpier Old Men. I want to find a copy of Grumpy Old Men. Not a big fan of the sequel Grumpier Old Men, but this was a really nice copy, so I thought I'd pick it up. Love the first movie to death. Grumpier Old Men is funny, but I really truly think Grumpy Old Men is way, way better. This was the coolest thing I found recently, The Golden Voyage of Sinbad, which is not only my favorite Sinbad out of the Ray Harryhausen Sinbad movies, but honestly, I think is one of Ray Harryhausen's best VFX that he's done. Now, Clash of the Titans is obviously his magnum opus, but Golden Voyage of Sinbad has some really good effects. The statue with the 6 swords that he does, flat out amazing. If you have not seen any of those Sinbad movies from Ray Harryhausen, those are super, super good. All 3 of them. The Golden Voyage of Sinbad is my favorite, but there's the 7th Voyage of Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger. The Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger. That one, too, is really, really good. Got Tommy Boy. One of the funniest movies ever with Chris Farley. Chris Farley, sadly, this is like the only movie with him that makes me laugh. All the other ones, I think he's kind of annoying, or his comedy just doesn't really work for me that much. Tommy Boy was made perfectly with him in mind. All the other ones, like Black Sheep, just weren't really great, but Tommy Boy is definitely a funny movie. Over here, got Father of the Bride, parts 1 and 2. Not really a big fan of part 2. It's still funny, but Father of the Bride is definitely a lot better. But big fan of Steve Martin. His documentary this year was one of my favorite things to have come out this year and that I watched. It was heartbreaking. It was really cool to see his thoughts and his behind the scenes of a lot of different things. Just how like he does comedy now compared to when he did comedy. it was really cool. So to get Father Bride Parts 1 and 2 was really cool. Got Meet the Parents. I'm definitely taking off these stickers too, by the way. But Meet the Parents is one of the funniest movies that can get me really laughing and rolling. I don't really like the sequel that much, or the third movie too, Little Flockers and Meet the Fockers and Little Fockers. Those ones are just not really that funny. I think it kind of wore off at that point, but Robert De Niro is really funny in this. Ben Stiller is actually really funny in this. His comedy doesn't work for me a lot of the times. I want to go back and try to understand some of his movies. I just watched Mystery Men for the first time in a long time, and I thought it was pretty funny. Ben Stiller's comedy just doesn't work for me a lot of the times. He's not really that funny, but he's kind of funny as a normal guy that has funny things happen to him, if that makes sense. Kind of like in the Night at the Museum. He's funny in there. He's funny in Meet the Parents. I wouldn't say that he's funny like in Mystery Men, like that type of comedy that he does isn't really good, but something like this, he can get me rolling in this. One of my favorite Harrison Ford movies, The Fugitive. If you have not seen this movie, this was incredible to watch for the first time, and I had to have this one on VHS because this is one of the best action movies of all time. Tommy Lee Jones again is in this with like Men in Black, and both of those guys are amazing. Harrison Ford is absolutely ripped in this movie. If you want to see a ripped Harrison Ford, watch The Fugitive. So, like I said, get most of these movies for $1 each, and got Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie. Never watched it. Never was really a massive Power Rangers fan, but this one was super cool to find. Got these in the Facebook Marketplace lot, and they were just like $10 for the lot of them, so about $1 each. And never was really a massive fan of Power Rangers because I always just thought like Voltron was the better option. Power Rangers was kind of like a knockoff of Voltron in my opinion. I know it was his own thing, but I never really cared for it, but I'll give the movie a chance. I know it did like fairly well, and it was a big deal in the time it came out, but I don't know. Just never really was a big Power Rangers fan, but it's cool that I get like a really nice copy of it with its clamshell, so that was really cool. Got an original copy of Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's right, Raiders of the Lost Ark, before it was Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. So really cool that I get to have this one. So hopefully I can find another original copy of the Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. I would really like that. Complete the trilogy. Bada bing, bada boom. Got 2 SpongeBob tapes. Deep Sea Sillies and Laugh Your Pants Off. Not sure which cartoons are in this one, but I'll have to see. But I'm pretty big SpongeBob fan when I was a kid. Never really had the VHS tapes, but it's kind of cool to have them. Again, a Don Bluth movie, The Land Before Time. This one is kind of a okay condition. I'll accept it for now, but love the Land Before Time series when I was a kid. I used to rent the heck out of a lot of the direct-to-video sequels. Like, they had like all the way up to 10, I want to say. But when I was a kid, I loved like The Land Before Time 4, I think it was called. I think it was called like The Great Journey of Littlefoot or something like that, or The Great Long Neck Journey. But always loved the first one. I had that one when I was a kid, and I really liked The Land Before Time. Big Daddy, another Adam Sandler comedy. Love this one to death. I think out of all of his movies, his main 3 movies that everybody knows, like Adam Sandler, Billy Madison, and The Waterboy, those are his all-time classics. But later down the road, he did do some good movies, like Big Daddy. I want to say is really, really funny. This one makes me laugh. And also, you have Grown Ups, which is absolutely hilarious. So, I mean, Adam Sandler doesn't do a lot of great stuff, but when he makes a comedy and it's funny, it's really, really funny. The lady threw in for free, Mouse Hunt. I have actually never fully watched this movie. I think I remember a few scenes of the mouse, and that's it, but I just never have fully watched this movie, so I intend to watch it now that I have a copy. So that was really nice. The lady threw it in for free with everything else. And then I have an original copy of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. It's absolutely immaculate, the copy. Yeah, I mean, it's Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, so really nice that I have an original copy of this. But what I grew up with was the original clamshell version, but it's cool to see an original copy of this in the paper sleeve, so pretty cool that I have this. But yeah, I mean, that's just a couple of my VHSs that I've recently got. It's really cool that this is kind of a thing. VHS collecting is something that has really taken off lately, but it's really cool to see that it's still something that's very easy to collect and it's very cheap to collect. If you're lucky, you can find the right equipment for very cheap or even free possibly. And then most VHSs you can find exactly what you're looking for 99 cents, even 50 cents. Big tubs of tapes for very cheap. It's a very nice thing to get into, very cheap to get into, hardly any much of a buy-in, I would want to say. But I highly recommend collecting VHS tapes. If it's something that really interests you, definitely go for it. I highly recommend it.